was just another sweltering afternoon in the dusty town of Millwood, when a man's laughter cut through the humidity like a knife. "Think you're tough, huh?" one of the officers sneered, tightening the rope around the wrists of a man, whose calm silence only seemed to fuel their cruelty. They'd found him walking near the old train tracks, a black stranger in a town where outsiders stuck out like splinters. To them, it was a joke, a way to pass the time. They didn't bother. Asking his name, they didn't care. But in their haste to humiliate him, they missed the glint of authority in his eyes, the deliberate stillness of a man who'd spent years mastering control. By sundown, that oversight would cost them everything. Meanwhile, across town, 17-year-old Jamal Thompson balanced a grocery bag in one arm and his little sister's hand in the other. The bus ride home was always crowded, but today the heat made it unbearable. When a pregnant woman stepped on, her face pale and sweaty, Jamal didn't hesitate. "Here, ma'am," he said, standing quickly. The woman, clutching her swollen belly, thanked him with a tired smile. But as the bus lurched forward, she scribbled something on a crumpled receipt, words that would soon unravel a secret buried deep in Millwood's past. Back at the station, the mood shifted when Sergeant Daniels stormed into the locker room, face redder than the sunset. "You idiots," he hissed, jabbing a finger at the rookie cops. "That man you tied up? He's not some drifter, he's Chief Carson, our new chief." The room went cold. The same officers who'd laughed earlier now exchanged panicked glances. Out by the pole, Chief Carson waited, his posture relaxed, but his mind racing. He'd taken this job to reform a broken department, but he hadn't expected his first lesson to come at the end of a rope. As night fell, Jamal unfolded the note the woman had pressed into his palm. His hands shook. The message was brief, but the name mentioned, a name he hadn't heard since his father's funeral, sent a chill down his spine. "Your dad didn't abandon you," it read. "He was killed because of what he saw. Meet me tomorrow. Don't trust the police." By dawn, two storms brewed in Millwood. A chief ready to confront the men who'd underestimated him, and a teenager clutching a note that could blow the lid off a decade of lies. But as the sun rose, neither realized their paths were about to collide, or that the truth would demand more courage than either had bargained for. The air in Millwood's police station felt heavier than the August heat. Chief Marcus Carson sat in the dimly lit office they'd finally untied him to occupy, staring at the peeling welcome banner sagging above the door. His left wrist still throbbed from the rope burns, a bitter reminder that the rot in this department went deeper than he'd feared. Down the hall, muffled voices argued. "You tied up the damn police chief," someone shouted. Marcus didn't flinch. He'd known taking this job would mean walking into fire. He just hadn't realized how many of his own men would be holding the matches. Reaching into his duffel bag, he pulled out a framed photo. Him and his brother Elijah, both in uniform, grinning after their academy graduation. Elijah's smile froze in time. He'd died responding to a disturbance call in Millwood 5 years ago. Official report said it was a drug deal gone wrong. Marcus never bought it. Now, sitting in this office that still smelled of the previous chief's cigars, he pressed his thumb against the glass. "I'm here, Eli," he muttered. "Whatever they buried with you, I'm digging it up." Jamal's sneakers crunched over gravel as he cut through the empty lot behind Millwood High. The note burned in his pocket like a live coal. "Don't trust the police." His dad's face flashed in his mind, the way he'd laughed throwing Jamal pop flies in this same field, the way he'd vanished one night when Jamal was 7. Ran off with some woman, his aunt always said. But the handwriting on that receipt in it looked familiar, like the half-finished grocery lists his dad used to leave on the fridge. "Yo, Jamal, wait up." He spun, heart racing as his best friend, Tasha, jogged toward him, her braids slapping against her neon windbreaker. "You okay?" she asked, eyeing him. "You've been ghosting my texts all morning." Jamal hesitated. Tasha's mom worked dispatch at the police station, but the note's warning echoed in his skull. "Just family stuff," he said, kicking a soda can. It clattered against the chain-link fence where he and his dad had watched fireworks every 4th of July. Tasha raised an eyebrow. Since when do you lie worse than my cousin at confession? She pulled a bag of Skittles from her pocket, offering him the red ones, their unspoken code for talk to me. He caved. As he whispered the story, her eyes widened. That lady on the bus, you think she knew your dad? Dunno, but she told me to meet her at Benny's diner tomorrow. Said to come alone. Alone? Tasha snorted. You've seen enough horror movies to know that's how white folks die first. She popped a green Skittle. I'm coming. Hide in the bathroom or whatever. If she's legit, cool. If not... She mimed swinging a baseball bat. Jamal almost smiled. Almost. Across town, Sergeant Roy Daniels paced his kitchen, the floorboards creaking under his weight. The photo in his hand trembled, a younger version of himself standing beside Marcus. Carson's brother Elijah, both in uniform. Elijah's arm slung around Roy's shoulders like a brother. Before the rumors. Before the night Elijah died clutching a file folder Roy had begged him to leave alone. His wife, Diane, hovered in the doorway. You need to tell him, Roy. The truth. And lose my pension? My freedom? Roy's voice cracked. They'll say I was involved. I handed Eli that file. I didn't know they'd... Diane stepped closer, her perfume mixing with the smell of burnt coffee. That new chief's his family. He's not gonna stop till he knows. Roy stared at the sticky. Note stuck to the fridge. Dentist 3 p.m. Normal things. Safe things. If I talk, he said quietly, they'll come for us next. The next morning, Chief Carson stood at Elijah's grave, the grass brittle under his shoes. The headstone read, Beloved Son, but someone had spray-painted, snitch across it in faded red letters. Marcus knelt, brushing away dried leaves. I'm sorry I stayed away, he murmured. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. A photo of Elijah's case file, the words classified stamped in angry red. Before he could react, another message popped up. Ask Daniels. He knows. Back at the station, Marcus found Roy sweating. Over paperwork. The sergeant stiffened when Marcus dropped the photo of him and Elijah on the desk. You served with my brother. Roy's throat bobbed. Yes, sir. You two were close? We... had each other's backs. Marcus leaned in, voice low. Then why'd you let them cover up his murder? Roy's coffee cup slipped, splashing brown liquid across the case files. Down the hall, a phone rang. No one answered. Jamal's palms stuck to the cracked vinyl booth at Benny's diner. Tasha lurked by the jukebox, pretending to pick songs. When the bell over the door chimed, the pregnant woman from the bus walked in, her denim dress straining over her belly. Up close, she looked younger than Jamal expected. Early 20s, maybe. Exhausted. You came, she said, sliding into the booth. Her name was Lila, she explained. Worked nights cleaning offices at City Hall. Found something in a councilman's trash last month. Thought it was junk till I saw your last name. She slid a folded paper across the table. Jamal's. Breath caught. It was a police report dated the night his dad disappeared. Witness Marcus Thompson. Status, deceased. That's impossible, Jamal whispered. He died 2 days later. Lila's eyes darted to the window. They listed him as dead. That night, before his body was even found. She gripped his wrist. Your dad saw Chief Reynolds, the old chief, taking a briefcase from some suits. Big money. When he tried to report it, the diner door slammed open. 2 officers walked, in laughing about last night's baseball game. Lila froze. They're watching me, she hissed. I shouldn't have... Tasha's voice cut through the tension. Yo, Jamal, your mom's calling. She waved his phone like a lifeline. Lila stood abruptly. Burn that report, and Jamal... Her voice broke. Your dad was a good man. Don't let them make you forget. As she hurried out, one of the officers glanced at her, then at Jamal. His smile didn't reach his eyes. That night, Marcus spread Elijah's old files across his kitchen table. Missing evidence. redacted names, and a recurring thread. A community center project Elijah had been investigating before he died. The same center Jamal's dad helped build. His phone rang. An old contact from Internal Affairs. Marcus? That tip about Reynolds taking bribe. We just got a match on the bank accounts. Money's coming from a shell company. A pause. Registered to someone named Lila Green. Marcus froze. Green. The name on Jamal's bus note. Outside, a car engine growled to life down the street. When he peered through the blinds, taillights vanished around the corner. On his porch lay a single bullet. Jamal stared at the police. Report under his blanket's glow. His dad's signature, his dad's case number, his dad's blood type. All dated the night before he'd hugged Jamal goodbye. Downstairs, the TV buzzed. A news banner flashed. New police chief promises reform. The screen cut to Chief Carson, the same man Jamal had seen arguing with officers outside Benny's diner. A text buzzed. Unknown number again. They know you. Have it. Get rid of the report. As Jamal reached for his backpack, headlights swept through his window. A cruiser idled across the street. He texted Tasha. Need to hide something. Now. She replied instantly. Meet me at the center. The old one. Bring matches. Jamal crept downstairs, the report crinkling in his fist. Through the living room window, the cruiser's passenger door opened. An officer stepped out, adjusting his belt. Jamal recognized the smirk. It was one of the cops from the diner.